The Vivo NEX S is a new kind of proposition. One glance at its spec sheet is enough to grab anyone's attention. It almost seems like the perfect phone, or at least the best phone we've seen thus far. I'm happy to say then that there is a lot to like here, so much so that I'm switching to using the NEX as my daily device to replace the S9 Plus. But there is more to the story than that, so welcome to my full review. To make one thing clear, the Vivo NEX I have here is the China version, so it's the exact same one that you'll be able to import yourselves, and to put things into perspective, you're looking at around $800. Now that's by no means cheap, but also not quite as expensive as Samsung or Apple's top offerings. Vivo has nailed most of the fundamentals. The battery at 4000 mAh is fantastic, and in real-world usage is about 20% better than my S9 Plus. And we've got fast charging too to keep it topped up. The NEX S is really nippy too, and is trading blows with the most powerful phones in the world. It's got notably great Wi-Fi connectivity and fast internal storage. Even heavy games like PUBG are as smooth as you'd expect, and the absence of a notch results in a truly full-screen experience. Okay, the most notable aspect of the phone is visible from the front. It's all screen. Nearly. This bezel around the sides is actually about the same size as the iPhone X's bezel. It just looks more impressive because the screen's larger. With the Vivo, you also have the thicker chin at the bottom, and I've seen quite a few comments about this. Some people have said that it detracts from the view, but hey, this is the highest screen-to-body ratio we've seen on a phone, and of course, there's no notch. Now, the company's ability to go without the notch leads us to a couple of things about the NEX that are both a blessing and a curse. The front camera is embedded in the phone's body, and when you see it pop up for the first time, it is a real novelty. It's not just a release mechanism, the camera is on a slider, so it glides open every time your selfie camera is on. It works in third-party apps like Instagram, it feels solid, and you can pick a sound, which is kinda cool, but you realize that even when muted, you can still hear it. There is a small amount of friction here, and when I mentioned it to the company, they told me that it's been tested for 50,000 uses, and in that period you won't have a problem. So whilst that may sound concerning, 50,000 is likely far more times than you would ever need to use it. And the thing that I've been more worried about is just banging the camera against some object, as it kinda sticks out a fair bit from the body. There's a similar story with the fingerprint scanner. It's really cool, and in a best case scenario, it feels like a leap in the right direction. When the phone is on a flat surface, it is disabled to save battery, and then as soon as you pick the phone up, it activates again, which is good. But this in-screen scanner isn't as consistent or as fast as, say, the Oneplus 6 or the Pixel 2. There is a very specific point of the screen where you have to hold your finger, unlike with the previous Vivo Apex concept phone, for which you could use the entire bottom half of the display. This power-saving mechanism also means you can't use it to unlock when the phone's on a table, unless you manually turn the screen on first. These are of course small issues, and on balance I'd still say the feature is good, and accurate enough not to be fooled by imposters. The earpiece built into the screen is actually a nice surprise, and something that feels like less of a caveat and more of a best of both worlds situation. Vivo has managed to hide the physical earpiece while using the display glass to vibrate and transmit audio, which actually means that when you're on a call, you can place your ear anywhere over the display and clearly hear what the other person is saying. So, whilst these adjustments that Vivo has made to accommodate the large display aren't perfect, for the most part they feel less like compromises and more like features in their own right. Okay, this is one big phone. With a 6.59-inch display, that's probably not a surprise. It's slightly taller than the S9 Plus and a fair bit wider, but it is actually pretty nice to hold. Vivo have got the curves right here, and it fits into your hand about as good as a phone this large could. It's a robust, solid device, but I'm not a huge fan of the design. You've got this holographic finish, which you might find sort of cool, as it essentially splits white light into its component colors, but I don't think the layout of the phone is as slick as designs from Huawei and Apple. That's just personal preference here though, you might really like it. The display itself is good. It's a large, Full HD Plus AMOLED screen, so pretty similar to the Oneplus 6, which on one hand is a cheaper phone, but on the other hand has one of the best displays you can get at that price. The really impressive thing here is the form factor. The fact that we have a 91.2% screen on the front immediately makes the whole package more appealing. It elevates the NEX from that phone with a pretty good screen to that phone that looks amazing from the front. I've got to say, as this is a China phone, you're likely to find the software a bit of a dicey experience. Now, this won't be so much of an issue if you wait for a Western release, but if you want to import it right now, you'll have a fair bit of playing around to do to get it the way you like it. There are a lot of Chinese apps built in. Their virtual assistant Jovi is not very useful, and it refused to let me change the default launcher without having a Vivo account, which then needed a Chinese phone number. Having said that, if you persevere with this phone, it is so worth it. Combining the power of the phone with the cutting-edge screen form factor and a third-party launcher results in one of the best mobile experiences, full stop. It is an absolute joy to use. It's also got dual SIM support, and I didn't have any problem getting 4G connectivity. To very quickly summarize the camera, I'd say you can tell that Vivo's budget was prioritized in other areas. It ticks the boxes. You've got 4-axis OIS, pretty good portrait mode, and solid 1080p slow motion. However, dynamic range is lacking, and whilst it's unfair to put it down for not beating the S9 Plus, it also falls short of the much cheaper Oneplus 6. In scenes where there are both bright and dark areas, you'll lose detail in the highlights. The phone doesn't have any sort of optical zoom like most of its counterparts. It doesn't support 4K video at 60 frames per second, again, like most of the competition does, but in almost every area, the phone delights with its camera. In fact, when you look around the spec sheet of the phone, the camera appears to be the main weakness here, but upon using it, that's not really the case. And even in low-light photos where the specifications are stacked heavily against it, it actually cleans up really nicely. The AI appears to be doing a pretty good job of controlling the amount of grain, to the point where photos from the Vivo NEX in low light look very comparable to the S9 Plus. And with that phone, low-light photos were one of the primary selling points. Now, Vivo, the company, has a history with audio. It was one of the first companies to make a smartphone with a built-in hi-fi DAC, and the NEX shares some of this DNA with its V1 chip. It won't be obvious with the speaker output, but plugging in a good pair of headphones into the included 3.5mm headphone jack, and this phone sounds fantastic. Okay, so as feature-rich as the Vivo NEX S is, there are a few commonplace things it misses out on. There's no wireless charging here, there's no IP certification for water and dust resistance, and no SD card support. For me, personally, I'm not really put off by these things though. I prefer using wired charging just because it's so much faster than wireless right now. The phone isn't IP rated, but it is still splash resistant, so if you did have a bit of an accident, it's probably gonna be okay. And as for the SD cards, the phone has 256GB of internal storage, so I don't think we're gonna need any more than that. But at the same time, if you are a devout user of wireless charging, or you really need that peace of mind that comes with IP ratings, then this is a valid reason to look elsewhere. Okay, in conclusion, the Vivo NEX feels like it's caught in the middle of a transition towards the full-screen smartphone, but we're currently at a stage where this comes with a compromise. The front camera solution here isn't ideal, and the fingerprint scanner is a sweet and sour experience. But none of this changes the fact that the compromises are small, and with the exception of the rear dual camera, using the NEX feels like a real step above many 2018 smartphones. Even though we're expecting other phones with a similar form factor from the likes of Oppo, that doesn't change the fact that the Vivo NEX, for a certain kind of user, could be the best phone you can buy right now. Thanks a lot for watching, I really hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, if you could smash that subscribe button down below, that would really mean a lot to me. My name is Aaron, this is Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'll catch you guys next time.